that you All right. Hello and welcome to episode number, this is 10. I think this will be 10 of the After Hours podcast. Here with me today I have PUBG pro turned content creator who also casts, Michael Hypoc Robbins.
Hey, what's up?
Thank you for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
This is one that I've been looking forward to since the beginning of this podcast.
Really?
Yeah, you were. When I sat down and put my list together, I mean, I have a pretty big list of people that I at some point want to have on. But you were definitely one of the first ones because I figured, pretty good friends and I like you a lot. And
wow.
yeah. So
You have me tearing up in the first 5 minutes.
the first 5. It's been what do we got here?
45 seconds?
Yeah, 45 seconds. Yeah. Tears. All right. Clickbait. Cool. So I guess start off with telling people. Actually, back that up. How I kind of start these off and have been starting these off is I kind of want to talk about your first encounter in the esports space. Like, not necessarily what was your first job, but more so like what was the thing that you saw in esports or about esports that you were like, I want to do this?
Probably going way back to when,
Pong?
No,
Okay.
not that far.
Okay.
But we're probably talking like 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
And back then there was a game called Unreal Tournament.
Yes.
Which a lot of people may remember, may not remember, but
Bleh.
yes, there you go, Blair. Back when I was known as Blair, or Blay, as it's commonly mispronounced. But I guess my first kind of experience of esports was kind of recognizing a couple of names from like playing online and then looking those people up at the time and being like, oh my God, these guys are actually like the real deal. And there's actually a guy called Gitz who went on to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Unfortunately,
I wish they could see your facial reaction there, but
I gotta get video. We'll do that
probably
soon.
nowadays a lot of people, but I guess he was like the European version of Fatality back in the day.
Okay.
Obviously, Fatality used to play Quake and Unreal Tournament, but it was the first time I'd kind of looked somebody up and there'd actually been something there.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I think Gitz was he was competing in the World Cyber Games like back in like 2002, I think, for Unreal Tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a guy that used to play in the same kind of, I guess, competitive servers that I was playing on at the time. And I kind of looked into it and I was like, oh my God, there's actually people that, actually compete and it's like semi-formal. And there was this website called Clanbase at the time, which was run by GGL, I think, which are, again, companies that nowadays probably very few people have heard of, but there was this whole legit kind of format behind it. And there were leagues, there were tournaments, there were cups, and looking at that and then recognizing a few names from like the people that I would just run into online at the time was like a weird kind of feeling. Because at the time I think I was 13 at the time. So it was all very much, this is the kind of stuff I was looking up.
Yeah.
On my bedroom on like a Thursday night or whatever when I should have been doing homework. But instead I was just absolutely gobsmacked at how many people were doing it, I guess. That was kind of my first insight into esports.
Obviously, it wasn't really coined or anything like that. People were just kind of playing video games because it was fun.
I don't even think it was called esports back then.
It was more like, I'm better than you and
Yeah.
this is the forums and
Yeah.
my name's on the leaderboard.
Yeah, and of course back then nobody was
Yeah.
getting paid, nobody was getting a salary. It was the prize money that was floating around was minimal at best.
What was Unreal Tournament like? Like, how did that work? What was that scene kind of like?
So Unreal Tournament was an arena FPS, much like Quake is, but it was there was a bit more emphasis on kind of like diversity in game types, I guess. Back then, Quake was very much deathmatch.
Sure, yeah.
Either 1v1 or like 4v4 team deathmatch. And Unreal Tournament kind of just had, I want to say it was one of the first arena FPS to incorporate capture the flag, but I might be wrong with that. I think that dates back to like the original Unreal before it was like Unreal Tournament. But basically it was the game was kind of marketed as like, you know, it was the arena FPS where, you know, you'd be the champion, all these different game types. So it wasn't just like a straight up 1v1 where who can get the most kills in 15 minutes or whatever. But I guess that's where it kind of sat within the arena FPS genre.
And is that how it kind of looked as the game started to get competitive? It was like very similar to that. There was no like differing rule sets or anything like that, or how did that?
No, it was all very very much. There was I guess the same way at the time we would have had like Call of Duty 1. I guess would have been what 2003, 2004 maybe.
Ooh,
I'd have to check that, but I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure because Call of Duty 4 was 07, right? As he's frantically Googling away.
I need that guy. What's his name? Jamie on the What's His Name's podcast? 2007 was COD 4.
So 2006 was COD 3.
Call of Duty 1 was released in 03.
03, yeah. So around that time, and again, something very similar happened where, you know, there was this, I guess, kind of competitive scene that broke out where it later came on to be known as kind of pro mod, which was a term donned by a lot of games where it would just be the rule set or the settings that would be adopted that were the most competitive, I guess. So very much that was something that came about in both Quake and Unreal Tournament, where it was kind of, you know, they'd remove certain power-ups or certain maps weren't part of the pool, so to say. But yeah, as it kind of developed, there was like 5 or 6 different game types that you could play, and that is again talking about this website Clanbase, where they would host these tournaments where you could play, you know, Sniper Arena CTF 5v5, or you could play normal weapons 4v4 team deathmatch, or, you know, straight up normal weapons duel 1v1. So there were all these different game types where you could kind of play different aspects of the game, or different. Game types is the best way of wording it, I guess.
Cool. Yeah. So obviously you saw all that and got started. How long were you involved in the scene of Unreal Tournament on that competitive level?
Way longer than I should have been.
Yeah.
Way longer. I played a lot of Quake over the years, but Unreal Tournament was definitely the game I preferred out of the two. I don't think I stopped playing Unreal Tournament
2017, right before you moved to Frisco.
No. I want to say I was still playing Unreal Tournament 2 years before Overwatch came out.
Oh wow!
And
I mean, that covers
for the majority of that, I played the original, but since then there's been Unreal Tournament 2K3, 2K4, Unreal Tournament 3, Unreal Tournament 4, which was in pre-alpha, which never actually made it out of pre-alpha. But that was one of the games where they were like, we're going to bring Arena FPS back to esports. And then Epic Games I actually remember Epic Games because I actually went out to visit their offices twice in North Carolina to be part of like the development process and work with the QA staff. And they basically wanted to bring a load of pros in to kind of say, look, this is what we do, this is what we change, blah, blah, blah. And then about 18 months after that, Fortnite blew up and they moved the entire development team off the Unreal Tournament project to Fortnite. So Unreal Tournament 4, I mean, it's still now sat on the Epic Games launcher. You can still,
that's right, yeah.
You can still actually play Unreal Tournament 4, but I'm pretty sure nothing's happened with it since Fortnite blew up.
Who would have? I mean, for all we know, that's just a banger waiting to be to press go. At least, I don't know. I've never played Unreal Tournament. I played Quake, but I've never actually.
It's a very, very difficult game for beginners.
Yeah,
because I guess the skill ceiling is so high, which is the same with all arena FPSs, I would say.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. So obviously you were into that for a lot. Did you do? I know we'll get into Overwatch in a little bit, but before Overwatch, did you do anything else on like a pro, semi-pro, super competitive level?
No, I mean other than that, I was playing a lot of CS:GO over the years. I'd always played CS 1.5, 1.6 Source growing up.
Yeah.
But I guess the furthest that ever went was I was playing like ESEA and FACEIT on CS:GO, but again that was never as like a competitive thing. That would be I'd have a group of people that I would kind of the same way that you'd say I have my group of people I play ranked with, so to say.
Yeah. So I guess I've never had this conversation either, obviously on a podcast or off a podcast. What is the competitive scene like over, especially back then, over on your side of the pond in the EU? Well, not really the EU.
For Unreal Tournament?
For anything. Like, I feel like, is it different? Or was it like a little bit less? I don't know. I feel like America, everything was just so like popping here as esports blew up. Did that come up at the same side over there?
I think yes and no. There are definitely aspects that are very similar, but
yeah, I guess it all came up to kind of get it together.
I guess in terms of North America, there's always been the trying to draw similarities between, you know, gaming and traditional sports, and how to make it like a product, and how to make it kind of watchable. Whereas in EU, it's always kind of just been, you know, this game happened between these two teams, and here's a web page showing you a written summary of what happened, and here's some screenshots, sort of thing. So
that's what people wanted.
I guess the main difference from my perspective would be how it's always kind of been, you know, leading down the pathway of how do we make this kind of mainstream viewable, and that's been the case from, yeah, if you look back at any of the old like MLG events or any of the old like QuakeCon and stuff like that, which obviously QuakeCon within Arena FPS is like the holy grail of kind of esports events, but essentially it was just a BYOC like event that people would play Quake at. But again, people from all over the world would travel to QuakeCon to play Quake and Unreal Tournament and other Arena FPS games because there was no kind of tournament circuit for it. Yeah, so I guess that's the main difference I would say.
Sure, that makes sense. So at what point did you realize that Quake and Unreal Tournament was like not your cup of tea? Was it Overwatch coming out that got you into that?
They're still my cup of tea. I still love Arena FPS games.
At a competitive level, like, would you drop everything you're doing right now if there was an opportunity to do it and play full on You would, okay.
If there was an Unreal Tournament or a Quake game now that was, you know, a huge hitter in terms of esports, I would be playing it.
Okay.
Hands down.
Oh, good to know. Gotta get Epic on the phone. I don't know.
Hey, good luck with that one.
Yeah.
Good luck with that one.
I could try. A man could try. All right. I'd do it for my friend.
They've got enough money to do it now.
They do. All right. Well, so what perked that transition for you to get involved with Overwatch? Because I know you had a pretty semi-successful career in Overwatch, early career. I don't know how long it was.
Literally, it came down to there was a friend of mine that I'd known throughout, you know, most of the time I played Unreal Tournament. I played on a couple of teams with him, and he'd kind of dabbled in other games, and I think at one point he was like the Shoot Mania world champion or something with his team. He used to play for Fnatic like way back in the day, and he actually got me introduced to Overwatch. He was like, it's like a team-based objective game that's sort of like Arena FPS, but you know, everybody works together. It's like MOBA meets Arena FPS. And I was like, At first I was completely anti. I was like, I'm pretty much just going to play this to humor him. Yeah. Next thing I know, I couldn't think about anything else. And this was kind of the turning point where I was like, at the time I was still working. I was working a job where I was working kind of, you know, like 80, 90 hours a week, and the first thing I'd do when I'd get home would be I'd put food on and literally sit down and play Overwatch, and I wouldn't move for like 8 hours. And it had been a long time since I'd had a game that would kind of literally fixate me like that. Yeah. And it reminded me of like the first time I played Call of Duty, first time I played Unreal Tournament, like any of those games that kind of stuck with me, I guess, throughout my life. It was the first time a game had actually kind of, I guess, grabbed me by the balls and said, pay attention, sort of thing. So very soon after that, I was then interested in competing again.
Yeah.
Because in very, very early Overwatch days, it was a much slower game than it is now. Much slower.
Yeah, I remember that.
much slower than it is now. And obviously back then there was I guess way more diversity in team composition and stuff like that. So you could kind of be a standout McCree player, whereas now it's like you just kind of have standout DPS players that kind of do everything, and they're only really good because of how good their teammates are, and that whole kind of I guess model that Overwatch is now.
Well, I mean, I guess that's kind of what they were going for with the whole synergy, like everybody working together type thing.
Yeah, and I think the objective was always to make it as much like a first-person MOBA as possible.
Yeah,
I think, which they've done very well.
Especially now, I don't know if you've noticed or if you've seen or how much you keep up with it, but they do the like your role lock now. It's like 2-2-2 or whatever it is.
Yes, so that's something that everybody wanted way back, because actually when I first started playing competitive Overwatch, you could still run 2 McCrees.
You run 2 McCrees?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know
so
that was
there was no hero limit.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
6 McCrees. I'd be pissed if I signed into a lobby and got 6 McCrees.
So I mean, there was some crazy stuff back in the day where you'd run like 2 Winstons, 2 Tracers, and 2 Lucios, and you'd just have this composition that would just fly around the map, and there wasn't really an awful lot you could do about it, to be honest. But it's crazy to see that now we're in a position where they're finally introducing kind of some sort of ring fencing around. Because when I quit Overwatch was, I think the last hero that had been introduced was Anna. And at that time, everybody was just running triple tank and quad tank. And it was like the most boring game to play competitively. Because it was just like cheese factor. There was like, that was when Roadhog's hook was broken, and just there was just a load of things about the game that just sucked.
Yeah.
And as soon as people figured out, I think it was actually NIP at the time, which is a team we used to scrim all the time. They were the first team, I guess, in Europe that kind of adapted this triple quad tank composition, and it was just absolutely mind numbing to play against. And the game went a long time without having a patch, without having
really
a balancing, or like a hero balancing or anything like that. So it was like that for a long time.
I remember, so I don't remember all of that because I didn't start playing Overwatch until like the Overwatch League came around, and I was just like more interested just due to the hype of it and the involvement that we had or didn't have in it. So before, like all those nuances I don't remember, but I do know that before this 2-2-2 kind of thing happened that we were talking about, is it got super boring and it would turn into like a tank healer only meta.
So the problem recently has been around goats since Brigitte has been.
Yes.
So this goats composition is like pretty much a similar situation to what happened with triple and quad tank, where it was just like you're pretty much you're at a major disadvantage if you don't run that composition, because a team that knows how to run that composition,
they're just gonna run it.
They will just run all over you. So, and that was where kind of, I guess, like in terms of skill gap and skill set, whatever you want to call it, that where there's absolutely no room for diversity, because you would just be hindering yourself by not running this composition. Yeah,
it's kind of like, I'm really glad this didn't happen, and I don't know how much you follow League, but there was the Sona Tark composition. Basically 2 support players that you would play double support bottom when you wouldn't typically do that, and it just got kind of stale and boring really quickly. But it's not as common as we thought it would be. But I mean, it's a good thing that they put that 2-2-2 in. Obviously, I mean I haven't watched Overwatch as much as I should, but
I mean I still really enjoy watching it. But a lot of
it's
the
definitely
feedback,
fun. Yeah,
a lot of the feedback they get is it's very difficult for obviously new viewers to just tune in and say what's going on, because the game has become very, I guess at a macro level, very complicated. So in terms of like a viewing product, it's not appealing. Even though it's very colorful and there's lots going on, it's not very appealing because
you can't just jump into it.
Yeah, people don't understand why one team is more dominant than the other, because there's not really in Overwatch. It's very rare. I mean, back in the day, it would be like every time Genji got an ult, it'd pop off, and like you used to have players like Shadowburn that would like, as soon as you see he's got an ult, like the observer would hop to him because he's gonna make a clutch play with his sword or something like that. Now it's like it's very rare that somebody makes a standout play, and if it is, it's like somebody throwing a diva bomb, which isn't
not really
all that impressive kind of thing. So, I I think that's one of the major flaws with kind of it getting to this level now where it's at.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely. You mentioned it's kind of hard to get started on watching it and all that. I think it's kind of that's the reason I started playing, because I really wanted to be interested in it. And I just couldn't. I knew Soldier 76 because it's pretty straightforward. He shoots. He's got
You run around and shoot.
yeah. He's got his little grenade launcher and he's got his healing pad, and it's like, and you sprint, and he's the only guy that sprints. So I felt like Call of Duty to me. So that's where I learned. So anybody who's trying to learn Overwatch, start with Soldier. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Overwatch is fun. It's good stuff. So when did your kind of, what did you end up doing in Overwatch? We didn't get into that too much. So you played competitively, and how did that kind of look for you?
It pretty much started out I was playing with a couple of friends, and then got introduced to another group of friends where we then ended up with a team that we started playing like in the ESL Open, like weekly events and stuff like that. I guess the first like team I joined was with a guy called Reels X, which people may know. He was like one of the best ADCs in Smite like ever. Basically, he used to play for Fnatic, and he moved over to Overwatch. And weirdly enough, I actually used to play with Spree, who's now on the Outlaws, Haffy who is now on, I think, either Spitfire or he might have actually just gone to Envy. I might be wrong on that. But basically a team of players that ended up going. I mean, Spree went to Luminosity. Haffy ended up going to Fnatic. We were probably one of the better unsigned teams in Europe at the time. And eventually I then got an offer from a North American team, from a European organization that had a North American team.
Yes.
Which was Method. And that kind of came from playing with NWA. Everybody kind of that roster kind of got picked apart. And then I played for Method for about a year. And then there was something really weird happened with kind of the tier 2 of the pro Overwatch scene, where they announced the Overwatch League details, and pretty soon everybody figured out it's like there's way too many pro players for how many franchise slots they've announced. If they want, 6 to 9 players on each roster, that's a massive cull, basically, of professional Overwatch players. And to me, I guess at the time I just didn't see my chances very high of getting onto an Overwatch League team, purely because at the time I was playing support, and I'd moved from being a DPS player to play support for another team, where then I was like, I didn't really feel like I was that great at support, and there was probably 100 other support players that were probably better than me. So it just became a decision where I was like, do I want to go through the next 6 months kind of jumping through hoops, trying to get into other teams? And it just, I kind of just had that conversation with myself and said, I'll pack it in. Yeah.
So how far after was PUBG out already?
PUBG was in early access at the time, so pre-alpha.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it was in
and
early access
I'd been playing it on and off since it kind of landed on Steam.
Yeah.
But at the time, I kind of just wanted to stream.
Mm-hmm.
I'd started streaming when I started playing Overwatch, and I guess that was the first time I'd really like enjoyed kind of anything about Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have obviously always watched Twitch, but I wasn't really ever the sort of person to get involved in people's chat, or I would literally just have it on to kind of not be watching TV, sort of thing.
Same, yeah. So how did it end up happening that PUBG was going to be a thing for you? Like you just play, like, because I would expect you got into it not, or maybe you did, but just jumped right into it, not necessarily with the expectation that you're going to go pro in this game and play at a high level. And you just kind of wanted to play to be an entertainer.
I kind of just wanted to play.
Yeah.
But again, similar thing happened again where I then heard that, people were hosting scrims and having these little tournaments and, one-day cups and stuff like that. So a couple of people I was streaming PUBG with, that would be, I guess, the people that I was just playing public matches with, I started entering with them. We did okay, but not great. But as soon as that happened, I was like, yeah, now I want to compete again. So I guess that kind of slow transition was I was streaming the game. I was playing for a couple of different teams, and then at the time, the White Temp Fate roster approached me, and I think at the time they approached me, they'd kind of already had the deal from Optic.
Really?
Yeah, they'd already had an offer from Optic. But at the time, they were an unsigned team, and they were still competing as an unsigned team.
Yeah.
But they asked if I'd like to join their team. Said that they had an org lined up. At the time, I had no idea, but obviously when I found out it was Optic, I was over the fucking moon. But
to say the least.
yeah,
yeah.
So I joined them. We were playing for White Temp Fate for 2 or 3 months with the original roster, and then joined Optic, and things went from there. Moved to Dallas about 3 weeks later.
Yeah, I feel like that. Wow. I didn't know that it was like you came on as the fourth, and then very quickly it was out here. I feel like, I don't know, if it was me, my anxiety would be through the roof. There'd be like so much going on. But I guess I feel like that's common. Things like that, kind of, you take your chances.
Yeah, I think at the time, like when I joined White Temp Fate, I wasn't really interested in it going as far as it has. But I guess I was kind of at a point where like I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I guess I hadn't really thought that out in my head. So when the opportunity presented itself, and I guess but not just Optic, but prior to that, when I kind of enjoyed competing in PUBG.
Yeah.
It had been a long time since I'd felt that with Overwatch, and even longer time since I'd felt that with any other game. As soon as that happened, I was like, yeah, actually this is what I want to do. And obviously then when the Optic thing came after that, it was like, okay, this is what I want to do, and it's the dream kind of setup to do that. And, arguably, definitely in my eyes, probably the biggest and coolest esports organization in the space.
For sure.
Having always been a fan of Call of Duty for years, that was kind of the dream opportunity to match kind of the enjoyment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely cool. I mean, especially at that time, it was definitely a cool time. I remember when you first got here, I had gone home because I was still kind of in New York and Texas because I
remember you were back and forth.
Yeah, so Alyssa still lived at home, so I was like, I still gotta go home every once in a while, and you guys had moved in, and Josh was like, yeah, the PUBG guys are here. They're like super cool people. I was like, sweet. I'm like looking forward to meeting these guys, and then.
And I remember the first few times I come into the office, it was like, and again, I've had office jobs pretty much my whole life, and I remember just walking in there and being like, this is the coolest office I've ever been in.
Yeah.
Like, because all of my office jobs were like in like sales or marketing or like HR.
Little tiny cubicle.
Yeah, everybody in like closed cubicles and stuff. Yeah. I just remember just being so hyped to just like meet everybody and like find out what they were doing, like learn about cool shit they were working on and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean that's how it was. Like for me too. Like I come from, I worked in retail, so I worked for Target. I was a logistics manager, front end manager there, and it was obviously not a cubicle. It was retail. It sucked. But coming from that to like being able to be with people who had a similar interest is just like super, super cool. So, like you said, being able to talk to and meet all these people and work on the same projects together is definitely a lot of fun. And plus, if we ever had a rough day or a slow day or something, and just come out, go up the stairs, turn the corner, and the PUBG guys are out there practicing for either the game they had that night or whatever it was. That was definitely a lot of fun. Definitely.
Good times.
Good times for sure.
Very good times.
Very good times. So you played PUBG for a year and a half? Well,
under Optic, yeah, like 19 months, 20 months.
Yeah. So then as
that's completely wrong. Under Optic for like 14 months. Sorry.
Yeah. So prior to that, what was it, like a few months prior to. Well, no, you played maybe 2 years total of PUBG.
Yeah,
I guess
2 years, 2.5 years.
Okay, and then towards the end of that, as that kind of everything's obviously everything happened all at once. You decided to kind of pursue content. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess kind of halfway through last year, I got more and more involved with kind of, I guess, the culture of Optic.
Yeah.
Outside of just kind of being a player.
Sure.
And I guess one of the most kind of rewarding, and I guess in terms of like job satisfaction outside of competing, one of the most rewarding things has been getting involved with the fan base and kind of absorbing that side of the culture. Has been something that I'd like to think of myself as always having been a people's person. So
Definitely.
like the fan base is something that like has always attracted me to the organization, and getting involved in content is something I've always wanted to do, but not a lot of people know that before I joined Optic, I've like my entire life had like crippling camera anxiety.
Yeah.
Which was kind of a weird thing to end up now doing what I'm doing, but
Yeah.
I mean it's still a thing, but I guess I'm much better with it now than I was previously. But again, that was something that kind of personally, that was kind of stepping out of my comfort zone, and I really enjoyed it. So when you do that, when you step outside your comfort zone and think, hey, I actually do like this, why have I neglected doing this all this time?
Yeah.
I kind of then just like latched on to, it would, my next dream job, I guess, after having dream job number one would be to, just make videos and like candid, very fly on the wall kind of stuff, but to be able to entertain people or have people, maybe haven't had the same opportunities as me and not had the same network of support to kind of get here, would be able to kind of, I guess, live that experience or see a bit of the inside of that experience.
Sure. So for anybody who wants to get in front of the camera or is afraid or doesn't want to make that step, and like, what did you do to kind of overcome that?
The biggest thing for me was kind of having been, I guess, an avid YouTube user pretty much my whole life.
Yeah.
I've always looked at YouTube comments because I like to gauge myself very heavily on kind of the feedback I get.
Sure.
At the end of the day, the worst thing somebody's going to be able to say is that you're an idiot. In however many words.
Yeah.
That's literally the worst thing anybody's going to be able to say about you.
Mm-hmm.
And really, when you weigh up that versus how passionate you are about doing it, it's really quite an easy balance to. Because don't get me wrong, there's people that slate me on videos and have slated me on videos, but really, does that take away from how much I enjoy doing it? No, it doesn't.
Right.
And once I kind of got that logic in my head, it was then very easy to just think, fuck it.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
So at the end of the day, just do it. Just try it. If you like it, keep doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It makes sense. I mean, I had I guess there was a short stint that I thought I'd be a half decent streamer. It was like I emphasis on short because I'm not very entertaining. I guess in front of a camera, but I don't know. I was always kind of weird to be in front of a camera too, so I totally can understand that. But I don't know if I'd ever be an entertainer. It's definitely not my DNA.
I think that's the buzzword. I know we talked about this beforehand. Entertainer is a word that I think implies you have like a very different presence on camera.
Okay.
And
yes.
I would like to think that I'm very similar on camera to how I'm off camera. I think becoming an entertainer becomes like this. You have this, not facade, but you have a not an act.
So I don't know what almost like to compare without like talking down on Dr. Disrespect, but like kind of what he does when he gets on camera, he entertains.
Yes.
He's very clearly a character.
Yes, and I would class Dr. Disrespect as an entertainer.
Yeah,
because he has this alter ego that executes. I absolutely love the doc. I love everything he does. Yeah. I think he's absolutely hilarious. But that I think is where you cross over between being kind of an entertainer and I guess a content creator,
Okay.
whatever
Yeah.
word you want to use for that. I think that's probably the fundamental difference between the two. Because I don't think I'm very entertaining, but
That's fair.
for some reason people like me.
You just, like you said before, you're a people person. You're a people's person.
Well, there you go. That's it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So, where we lost track a little bit. So you PUBG, transition to content creator, got over the camera thing. And at one point you were doing vlogs on a pretty regular basis. I mean, that was, I'll tell you, the highlight of my week. I'm just playing. I mean, it was fun to watch those videos. I don't remember how many you ended up putting out, but
I think like maybe 12 to 15, maybe.
Yeah.
I think it's probably not suitable to go into here, but I've had a couple of things, I guess, in my private life that have kind of personal setbacks, I'd say, in the last. I think the last video I uploaded was like 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So probably since then, and obviously the whole situation with Optic and Immortals, and also trying to kind of dip my toe into the casting life and working towards that. But it's definitely not something that I've turned my back on because I really enjoy it, and not just from the I guess putting content out standpoint, but I also like to have kind of I guess like way back in the day people would keep photo albums. There's like memories and stuff in my vlogs that like I like to capture that I can go back and watch.
So do you go back and watch them? I mean, it's not like it's been years since you put your first one up, but you do.
I watch my own videos back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just if there's some things in them that happen that I think are funny.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I would do the same thing, just because.
I think it's important for anybody that's definitely looks at it the same way I do to, I guess, curate your own content.
Mm-hmm.
I have this thing where I actually had 2 videos that I never ended up uploading because I watched them back and I didn't like them.
What was it about them that you didn't like?
There was lack of
Substance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of them, I just feel like, I don't know what was different that day, but the footage came out very forced, and even me watching it was just like, oh god, that's a bit cringy. Like, I don't like that. And another one of them was I just really wasn't happy with, like you said, the substance of what came out.
Yeah. Now, I guess this is a pretty good, kind of segue into, how do you feel about, does content need to be, like, because there's people who just put content out to put content out, and whether it's good or bad or whatever, and there's people that only put out perfection, or in their eyes perfection. So how do you kind of feel about?
I wouldn't say I would. There's obviously two very opposite ends of the extreme, but I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist, but certainly I would have to watch a video of mine back, and I would have to enjoy it, or at least say that, somebody else would enjoy it.
Sure.
Sort of thing. And again, I guess that comes from having spent half my life on YouTube watching videos. So I kind of know in my head what I like and things like that. And it's very difficult to kind of disconnect yourself from your personal bias and say, do I think this video is good or bad?
Yeah.
Because trust me, there's some videos that I've kind of been on the fence about, I've put out, and people have given me really good feedback on.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm wrong.
That's what I'm saying, because like you said those two, but those two could be your like.
Yeah, they could be.
In the rough.
They very well could be. Yeah. But I guess those feelings towards it were, I guess, strong enough for me to say no.
Nah.
Yeah, which is a weird feeling. It is a weird feeling.
I totally respect that. If, I guess this is, you don't have to answer this one, but if you could do one thing only between streaming on Twitch, because I know you like it, but you don't do it that often, or putting up like vlogs and YouTube videos, if you had a decision to make, which one would you rather do? We stumped him.
Honestly, I guess this comes from, I guess, longer term personal goals, but I would rather vlog.
Okay.
If we were to say, at base value, you were semi-successful at either, So
Yeah,
either you're going to be semi-successful at streaming or semi-successful at, I guess, making the same amount of money or having the same impact making YouTube videos. I would say vlogging, purely because I think it's like I said, that end product of having something to go back and watch.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Would probably have more sentimental value to me maybe in 20, 25 years or whatever. But I also think, longer term, I'd love to be able to get to the point where, I can go traveling and just like make like a vlog of me going to Tokyo for a week or something like that. And I guess the scope is much larger.
That's true.
Whereas it's very difficult nowadays to kind of just start up as a variety streamer. A lot of the big streamers are, and don't get me wrong, it's possible, it's not impossible, but it's very difficult to say, fire up your stream in just chatting and have, a decent viewer count and be able to diversify your content on Twitch, as opposed to starting up and being like, if I was to start up, I would obviously stream PUBG.
Right. Yeah.
And obviously you're appealing to a very small, audience, very, very, I'd say targeted demographic of Twitch viewers. But if you do anything outside of that, it's not necessarily guaranteed that, that will transition across. If I then one day fired up the stream and said, I'm going to play Scribble.io for 6 hours with a couple of friends on stream,
you'll have me. I'll be there.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you could just go ahead and win the Fortnite World Cup. I bet you that Booga, is that his name? Booga?
Bugha. I guess probably Booga.
It's definitely not
or
Bugha. Buga. But he could probably turn on
right
and
right now he could upload a video of doing anything and it would bang.
But
actually, we were talking about this before. I tweeted out his social blade, and at the start of that day, he had 22K followers.
You could have streamed his social blade growing.
Yeah. And I think I left it running for like, I remember playing PUBG for a couple of hours after I tweeted it, and I looked over to my second monitor. I was like, oh my God, he's up to 180K. Literally in like 6 hours.
He's at like 250 now or something.
I think he's at 279.
Clearly, hypoc has
but then
monitoring
things like that fascinate me.
Yeah, no, me too. Like it's like the virality of things are just super, super interesting. And I mean, I would love to replicate something like that.
283,000.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'll never win a Fortnite World Cup, but
I mean, and the funny thing is actually now, and this is, I'll lean over and show you. So this bit here that says followed by blah blah and 94 others that are obviously mutual followers. When I first checked his profile, that was Luke the Notable and Courage. Those are the only two mutual followers.
Wow, that's interesting.
So
and then now you see everybody or most of the people but
so that's now 97, I guess, mutual followers. Which stuff like that, like you said, the virality of things like that.
I don't know if that's a word. So
it sounded like a word. I just tried to run with it there, but that stuff fascinates me.
Yeah, no, it's definitely I don't know. I can't remember the last time that something like that happened at that level. I remember like following it and like seeing, oh, you know what it was? I was watching American Idol. And you see like the different types of like all the different artists. I don't know if you watch American Idol, if you know what it is. You know what it is?
It's a bit like Britain's Got Talent, I guess.
Well, Britain's Got Talent's more than just singing, right? It's like everything.
Yeah, well, it's just singing.
Yeah. So this.
Yeah, we used to have Pop Idol.
Probably, yeah, that's probably the same thing, just not for Americans. But I guess same concept. It's like, you'd run through the show, you'd have probably to the point where you're the top 20 people. Those people are like building their own fan base and whatever, and then the winner blows up overnight. It's like forced virality. I hope that's a word because I'm just gonna run with it, like you said. But it's just interesting to watch, and seeing. I don't know. Is this like a socialism thing or like the study of socialism or whatever? Like watching people act and how they react and stuff. Interesting, definitely interesting. Should have went to school for this.
Yeah,
but unfortunately, I did not. Did you go to school?
I did.
University?
No. So in the UK, we have college up to 18. So we have like high school up to 16, then college up to 18, and then university. So I ended up not going to university.
So that would be so you going to college is the equivalent of me going to high school.
Do you go to high school up until 18?
Yes.
Yes, then.
So but you don't have to go to college.
No.
So you could
you could drop out of school at 16. Well, you wouldn't be dropping out. You would be finishing high school, and then you could go straight into work at 16 in the UK.
Is that like frowned upon in the UK?
No, because we have things like working apprenticeships. So, say for example, somebody wanted to become an electrician, they would leave school at 16 after getting, I guess, their education, if like not higher education, but their education, so the mandatory education.
Yeah.
And then they would go into either a trade job or, I mean, you can pretty much do anything at 16 because legally you can work at 16 in the UK.
Yeah.
So you could go into a sales job if you wanted to.
Sure.
You could do that at 16. But I guess college up until 18 in the UK is like if you wanted to. So we would call it A levels. So you do your A levels between 16 and 18, and that's like if you wanted to get a job in IT, if you wanted a decent job in IT, you'd need at least A levels. But nowadays, if you wanted to work for a big company, you need a degree.
Right. Yeah. I mean that's how it is here too, I guess. What is it? 4 years there for university?
Or does it vary? Minimum 3, but I think most degrees are 3, but I think majority are probably longer than that. It depends on what, I guess, field you were.
Do you have like?
I think my sister ended up going to university for like 5 years.
I was going to say.
She did psychology.
Did you?
Occupational psychology.
Oh, Alyssa does psychology. Well, she has a degree in psychology. Do you have? Do you guys have like? So we have a bachelor's, or associate's is 2, bachelor's is 4. There might be a 3 that I don't know about. And then there's a master or a doctorate, or a master and a doctorate.
Yeah, so you
can have all that too.
Yes, okay. Yeah. So I think initially my sister got a degree in psychology, and then she did her master's in occupational psychology.
Oh, gotcha.
Don't quote me on that. Okay. She would probably kill me if I got that wrong. But I think at the time during her initial degree, she was looking at criminal psychology, criminology, and all of those stuff as kind of, I guess they were potential for what she would take her master's in, but she took her master's in occupational psychology.
Yeah.
I think.
That makes sense. Well,
This is the first time I've hoped a member of my family doesn't watch something or listen back to something that I've done.
She's on Facebook. I'm just going to find her and be like, hey, listen to this.
She's actually not on Facebook. She's one of those people who's very anti-social media.
No.
Very anti-social media.
I'm going to mail a letter back to your home. I don't have that address. I do have that address.
Pigeon. You do
have that address somewhere.
You do?
I do. I'm just going to mail it. Call it Mrs. Robbins.
That wouldn't go down well. For me, I mean.
It's just a carrier pigeon drops off a little note with a QR code to this.
She wouldn't know what to do with it.
Damn it. A link? Yeah, Spotify.com / whatever it is, YouTube.com/.
Then she'd know what to do with it.
Multiple links. That'd be funny as hell. Or text Mike. He's got something to tell you. That'd be funny. Yeah. Okay, so kind of lost track there. So what were we on before all that?
Education
and
before that, college, university.
Twitch and YouTube, and your decision of which one you would pick. Yes, that's how that branched. All right, cool. Yeah. So as a I guess before we get into that a little bit more, we have so you casted. You've been casting. How did that kind of come up?
It was something that I guess kind of just came along out of the blue because I think having enjoyed competing as much as I did and being involved with like the pro side of video games and esports, but also kind of having developed this kind of desire to be involved with kind of like linking a viewer to like this inside world of esports. And I guess the casting is kind of the best of both worlds of that, because you then become kind of either the face or like the presenter of this wonderful world of esports. And again, in a very specific game, but you become the first thing the viewer sees, and you're the person that brings that viewer along that journey, I guess.
Yeah, I think the caster is I think the casts are super, super important in one, understanding the game, whether it's sports, esports, bocce, basketball, whatever it is. It's important for them to teach and to like keep the viewer entertained while there's the downtime, obviously, and obviously educate the viewer, which is super cool. That's what I love about a good caster. And it's funny because when PUBG first announced, was it a pro league in the beginning? So when you guys came over here, there was a pro league. And that's, no, it was not.
When we came over, it was still very much mostly endemic tournament organizers, right. But ESL were organizing stuff. But it was very much like independent tournament organizers were hosting events.
Okay, that's right. So that's when I started watching it. I say we because it was Josh and I. If anybody listened to his episode, the Entrepreneurial Suite, we watched it from there. So we would watch PUBG, and it was always kind of like, it was almost like people didn't know how to cast it yet, and it's ever been evolving, and like it's just a different type of game because nobody's ever really casted a battle royale.
Yeah, and I think that comes down to the stuff we talked about earlier with Overwatch is very complicated to watch.
Yeah,
and to be able to appreciate what's going on in PUBG, you need an understanding or it explaining in real time, kind of on a macro level, why people are doing what they're doing. Because there's this whole thing in Battle Royale where people are like, oh, there's too much RNG, it can't be competitive. But actually at a high level, good teams consistently can counteract, and I'm not saying overcome that RNG factor, but counteract that and kind of helping a viewer to understand that process and at that level is absolutely crucial to kind of appreciating why PUBG is a beautiful game to play and watch.
Yeah. On the RNG topic, how many times did you play on like not necessarily a scrim, but like where the match mattered, and you got into your first fight? You either got hot dropped or you got into your first fight underlooted.
Countless times.
Oh, it is a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was an event, Starladder Season 2, last year in Ukraine where I think as a team we probably had the worst 2 series of games we ever had. Yeah. But there is one thing. Our team actually, I'm pretty sure 5 out of the 6 major events we attended last year, the major events that we attended last year, we had the highest number of kills in a single game, 5 out of 6 tournaments.
Holy crap.
So that was something that there's this ethos in PUBG where like you make the most of the games where you're RNG gifted to win. And obviously the other games where you're saying, oh yeah, we got loot screwed, or we got the circle just kept hard shifted away from us, where good teams will salvage and still kind of make points out of those games, whether it's nowadays 2 or 3 points or 7 or 8 points. But the RNG factor is always going to be there, and I would be lying if I said it wasn't there at the highest level of competition in PUBG.
Yeah, I feel like there are similar factors in other things too. Like, League of Legends is a little bit more like chess, but like when you play a game like Call of Duty, they say it all the time. How many times have you heard a caster say COD timing? Or maybe they don't say it, but people talk about COD timing all the time. Like you both turn a corner, you just miss each other or whatever. Or CSGO is the same way, because especially the spectator has the nice, beautiful silhouette of the character through the wall, and but it's not really RNG. It's just timing things. But at the end of the day, it's really all kind of just the way the cookie crumbles.
I think it's relative.
Yeah,
it's relative across multiple games. There's always going to be an aspect where things get to a point where they're very much 50-50. It can go either way, but it doesn't because of an outside factor, whether that's COD timing or CSGO timing, or Liquid and FaZe are on opposite sides of the circle, and one of them gets a hard shift, or one of them gets a circle advantage. So something I've always kind of noticed with PUBG, and this will happen, like the only time I ever noticed it is when like the end of the series or the end of the event, and it's like you have to go all out type thing. How do you all coordinate dropping in a different spot? Do you guys like all get in a Skype chat or something the night before and be like, all right, this is our spot for this event? Like, So I guess at a pro level, there's this is harder when you talk about cross region, but definitely in like NA, there would be like, I mean, historically way back when I first joined Optic, it was School and Apps was our spot in NA, and it just so happened that the first few events we went to, we weren't contested, but I can't actually remember the first team that did, but there was generally an understanding where, you know, you want to give yourself the best possible chance of placing well in PUBG. So if you were to just take a straight up RNG fight at the start of the game, you're not giving yourself the best possible opportunity, because you're literally gambling. It's a coin toss of, if you land on a roof, one guy can get an AK, another guy could get nothing.
Yeah.
So the good teams, very rarely will they hot drop each other or contest each other for a loot spot particularly. There's been a couple of examples where in an Asian Invitational that FaZe and Cloud9 were playing in, I'm pretty sure it was an Asian Invitational. It was PGL. But there was Asian teams there, where basically in the last game, the only way FaZe could win the tournament is if C9 went out first, and FaZe then got more points than them. So FaZe dropped on Cloud9. Because at that point, FaZe were saying, our second is safe, third cannot catch us. So we could literally go out 16th and still come in second place. No team can catch us. But if we want to win, C9 has to die first. Yeah. So they dropped on them. And there was this whole thing at the time where it was like, people didn't really understand why that was a good play, because they're like, oh, they just dropped and took a straight up RNG fight. Well, actually, no, because
that was their only effective decision.
Yeah. If they both played out the game the way they would have, FaZe would have had to have passed C9 and then still outscored them for the rest of the game. So it's like this weird kind of one-off scenario, but it's happened a few times.
I feel like there was a situation, if I could not be remembering correctly, that something similar happened to you guys.
It was a Katowice in the last game of IEM. Avangar, who dropped North George with us anyway, and had done the whole tournament, and North George is actually a part of the map where it's big enough for two teams to loot and kind of not cross paths. But in order for us to win the tournament, Avangar had to go out last, as in dead last, the first team to be eliminated, and we needed to win the game with, I want to say 12 kills, and we got second with like 11 or something. That will forever be my favorite match of PUBG I've ever watched. That will forever be my favorite moment in anything. The thing was that by the end of it, I was absolutely heartbroken that we got second.
Oh my god,
it was our first. We've been to an invitational before that, but it was our first European major under Optic. And like I remember at the time, and there was actually a bit of internal kind of turmoil about it, but I was absolutely livid.
Yeah,
we got second.
Yeah,
not with my teammates, but like I was just with the situation, because we came so close. Yeah, and it would have been the coolest fucking thing ever, because
oh my god,
in the end game it came down to FaZe v Optic.
Yeah. Oh man.
So that's like it would have been like the coolest thing ever.
You ended up, because of that put you at second, or
and then we got disqualified. Of Baja.
Is that the one with the smoke?
I say because of Baja, but because of a clip of Baja.
Yeah. Which, did it even happen that match?
It happened in the last game.
Yeah. And it was that stupid smoke thing, right?
No, it wasn't. It was the back then there was a bug where if you run up to a wall really quickly and turn your camera, you could see through the wall.
Yeah.
Some shit. But back then PUBG was such a fucking flaky game that it just.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was still,
even so, that would still be I would say my personal highlight of.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't get super excited about things. I was standing watching that. And it was hype. It was definitely hype. It was cool stuff. We were upset for you too. So yeah. So we mentioned that we were talking about casting originally. So what is? I guess we covered that already. I don't know where I was going with this. So so people don't know, I guess, that there's multiple roles in casting. So I guess depending on what type of game you're watching, you're either I don't know, what were the two you mentioned?
Play-by-play and color. So
colors.
yeah, to kind of simplify, it would be a play-by-play is your hype man. They're the one that does like the running commentary on what you're looking at on the screen, and then the color caster's role is to kind of, I guess, in downtime or where there isn't something hype happening on the screen, it would be to kind of dive a bit deeper and say why that's happening and what's going to be the I guess the result of this happening and how it plays into kind of the bigger picture sort of thing. So and it's quite common in most traditional sports. I mean, sometimes you might even have 3 casters and there's 2 play-by-plays and then 1 color, or kind of like a play-by-play and then somebody that does a bit of both, and then a purely color caster that would kind of talk in downtimes and timeouts and stuff
storylines
like
and stuff too. They'll bring up. Okay, so as
statistics and stuff like that as well is important for the color caster role.
So and the color caster role is your preferred role.
Yes.
So in that, what do you?
That comes back to the whole kind of helping a viewer to understand what's going on and why it's going on and why that decision has been made. So obviously the things you just mentioned and the decision making and the education process and all that. You said analytics. I mentioned the storylines. So what does your kind of day-to-day look like to make sure that you are performing as a caster the way that the best of your ability? Like, how do you understand everything going on in your scene? I guess obviously the foundation knowledge comes from understanding PUBG at kind of that level.
Sure.
The kind of constantly developing stuff like that would be keeping track of like statistics and how players are performing, and when certain teams make a play based around a particular player being good at executing. For a perfect example, we used to do something in Optic where we would leave Baja out.
Yep.
If we had to crash a compound, wherever the situation came where we didn't get the circle and we had a couple of vehicles, we'd leave Baja out with the scope, and we'd crash a compound. So like understanding that Baja was the bolter of the team and arguably probably the best bolt player on our team, kind of using him to his strengths and why that is a good decision, and that stuff like that the viewer wouldn't necessarily know, or at least somebody tuning in that wouldn't know who Baja is would know why he is there doing that and potentially dying to the blue because of it. Understanding that thought process. So keeping an eye on kind of roster shuffles, statistics, and team tendencies, and understanding why a certain team might not be good at Milter circles on a wrangle, and why that is, because they're rotating from North George and they've got to come all this way, and what's wrong with their rotation path and why that is a bad thing and stuff like that. So I guess keeping on top of that and knowing the history of teams coming into certain tournaments. So GLO, for example, I went back and watched a lot of OCE scrim footage because there was a couple of teams from OCE that had come over, and again the Latin American teams that come over, understanding if there's going to be any crossover between drop spots, loot spots, rotation tendencies, stuff like that. Understanding that stuff so that when it happens, it's not a surprise, and you can say, well, this actually happens because Bitloff, for example, on South Circles, they tend to rotate all the way down to Primorsk and then cut across, which would conflict with Navi's loot spot, and seeing that develop on the map and having that knowledge already, and as opposed to just going, wait, what are Bitloff doing? Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense to me. I guess, I don't know if I either didn't, I feel like when you say it like that and there's like meaning behind it and like things like that, it all makes more sense. I guess me not having the knowledge that obviously you have when you're watching these players, it makes it a little bit different watching it. And maybe that's why I'm always doing what the hell is this guy doing? But yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense.
Research is a big part of it, but I don't think it's crucial.
Yeah.
Because you're always going to be, I mean, you're not always going to have the opportunity to say, that thing that I looked into and I learned, I'm going to try and work that into this cast.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there is definitely that aspect to it as well. But I'd say, in terms of credibility, definitely in terms of, if Ghosts fans tune in, they want to know that the caster knows that team, and knows their tendencies and things like that.
Yeah. Casting is interesting. It's like I've never really known anybody that did casting. Like I spoke to Jack a little bit at his time at Optic about casting, like actually very briefly. But it's like it's just a very it's like different. Like people, maybe not people, but I definitely just looked at casters and they're just like the guy talking. Like you don't know everything that goes into it. And it's definitely its own art form. Like understanding.
The first time I casted, I didn't do nearly enough prep.
Yeah.
At all. The first time I was like, oh my God, what do I say?
Yeah.
And there was literally this moment where I was like, yeah. Well, actually, my first cast, I remember watching it back. I think I said, yeah, absolutely, about 26 times throughout a 3-hour broadcast.
Oh, no. That'd be me, though. It's like, Zach, you got anything? No, I'm good. Keep going. I mean, I feel like it's definitely tough, especially if you don't do the prep work. Come on, Mike. Well, I mean, you're doing good now.
Basic.
Doing well now.
Yeah, hopefully. I'd like to think so.
Make PUBG entertaining for me.
There you go, then. That's half the battle.
That is, what's the other half?
Making the people that don't necessarily like me enjoy PUBG. You got a personal bias.
That's true. Yeah. That's very true. That's true. That's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I mean, definitely kind of starting to wind down a little bit here. So, as a content creator / caster, what is your absolute favorite thing about like what you're currently doing to make your living? Like, what is the best thing? What is the first thing you wake up to and think about?
Can I be really cheesy?
Sure. If it's true.
Making people laugh.
Yeah.
Or I would say to an extent, making people happy, but making people laugh, I guess, is because a lot of YouTube content I used to watch, and again, things have progressed massively over the last few years, but would be stuff where like I'd get into the office, I'd have like 20 minutes, I guess, before I'd start my day, where I'd have a coffee and I'd watch a video. I'd like watch a YouTube video and have my morning coffee, I guess. And it could literally be as simple as I'd either have a good or bad morning based on the mood that I was after watching that video. It could have been anything.
Yeah.
I'm talking like vlogs, I'm talking about like gameplay videos or anything like that. I guess just having that kind of takeaway. I would love for people to say that about my content. Yeah, every single morning I get to the office and I watch a video and it sets me right for the day.
Yeah.
That would be like the ultimate accolade for me. I wouldn't care if it happened to 100 people or 100,000 people.
Yeah.
Just having that feedback is like, I guess, the job satisfaction factor of it.
Definitely. I mean, I feel that. I totally understand that. So to flip it, do you have somebody that either has always been someone that you kind of modeled your own content after, or like you wanted to kind of have a similar impact to? Not necessarily like, I don't really like using the term like someone like a streamer you look up to or a content creator you look up to, but like someone that you kind of model your own vibe.
I guess the vibe. I hate using that word, but
no, my bad.
The I guess the vibe that I've always kind of is weirdly enough Maniac. I absolutely loved Maniac's early day vlogs because they were very candid. They were very off the cuff. They didn't feel forced. It was all very the same conversation probably would have happened if a camera was there or not. Yeah. And they were just generally upbeat.
Yeah.
They were just like it was a new experience for him at the time, moving into the house and yada yada yada. And I guess not necessarily Maniac, but that sort of like vibe is because I don't like
scripted content.
Yeah, I was gonna name some people there, but I'm not gonna do it. But certain YouTube now, where it's just become this kind of clickbaity, forced kind of.
I agree.
And even some vloggers now, where they started off very, you know, candid, has turned to the point where I'm going to vlog the way that I know will get views.
Yeah, yeah.
And that stuff for me is just really difficult to watch. And to take nothing away from them, you know, they're successful at what they do. But certainly for me, the reason I guess I would watch some of these vlogs is I'd want to get to know them and I'd want to know what their life is like.
Sure.
So with those two bits there, that obviously one style would suit that much more than the other.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I think and you touched on this before, you deliberately didn't put a video up because you felt you worded it as cringy. And I guess that word cringy to me kind of really resonates with like it being forced.
Yeah.
And that is the same thing for me. I wouldn't necessarily like to watch somebody on a regular basis if they were forced or cringy or whatever, you know, insert word there. But I definitely am interested in like candid vlogs and things like that and like genuinely learning about somebody. It's funny. I used to watch Nade Shot, you know, but back before I did anything in esports, it was just kind of like when I thought I'd be a competitive player type thing. He did a lot of candid type stuff, like just regular vlogs, kind of like yours. And he was always the person that kind of resonated with me on that type of stuff. So it's definitely cool. Yeah, vlogs are fun. Yeah, cool. I guess I'm out of stuff to say. So I do have to put in one request.
Okay.
I need you to say aluminum.
Aluminium.
I need you to say aluminum.
Aluminum.
Okay. Now that I got it on recording,
you got it on,
we're good. Yeah.
You can just edit out the first tongue slip, I guess.
No, I can put both in there.
Okay.
There's the English version and there's the English version. It's fine.
The American English version.
They're both English.
Not the Queen's English.
So do we speak a different language?
You speak American English.
Is that what you guys say?
Yep.
You guys just speak English to us. It's just like fancy.
We're English.
It's fancy English.
Oregano.
Oregano?
Oregano.
Is that how you say that?
I say oregano, yeah.
Yeah. And you say ranch?
Ranch.
And ranch.
Ranch.
What was the other one? Damn.
Basil.
Basil. Yeah.
Basil.
That's like
paracetamol. Paracetamol.
No, well, there's I think that was the one.
Tomato.
Say potato different?
No, I say potato. Nobody actually says potato. Like people say potato, tomato.
Do you say tomato?
No, I said tomato. Because that's how an American would say tomato.
It's tomato. Yeah.
But American would say tomato.
Leave us alone.
Okay.
We welcomed you with open arms.
You did, yeah, to be fair. I'm very slowly becoming Americanized. I can't deny that.
Really?
Very slowly.
You get the stars.
Not in terms of speech. There's no way.
No, it wouldn't be as fun if you spoke American. I would miss your accent too much. But yeah, aside from that and our nonsense, do you have anything you wanted to say or anything that you didn't, or any topics I didn't cover or anything?
No, I think we've digressed quite nicely.
We did, yes.
Across a number of subjects.
We did. Yeah, we definitely did. Yeah, this is the segment of the show where the guest plugs themselves shamelessly, although I'm definitely not bringing you an audience.
Hey, an opportunity to plug is an opportunity to plug.
So,
I mean, I guess all I would say is obviously once I get kind of more settled, I guess, personally, obviously check me out on YouTube. I mean, if you want to go back and watch my vlogs and see kind of what I'm about and my journey, that's on there. But yeah, I guess.
What is the YouTube? Is just hypoc?
It's just hypoc, yeah.
Okay.
YouTube.com/hypoc. That's HYPOC, because a lot of people actually spell it wrong.
You mean hypoc?
Hypoc.
Hiccup.
Hypoc.
Hip Hop Anonymous.
All sorts, but yeah, I guess that's it. So that's my shameless plug. Well, I mean, yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter, but it's mostly just memes and other stupid stuff.
Most of the world loves memes and stupid stuff. That's what Twitter is for.
Okay, yeah, hit me up on Twitter as well. That's HYPOC hypoc as well.
It's spelled the same way. It's not hypoc.
Everywhere. Make sure it's hypoc, not hypoc. Hypoc that's my bugbear.
Yeah.
And when people spell my surname with 2 B's, which I'm checking up on. You've got it written down with 2 B's there, haven't you? Let me see.
Oh,
actually
no.
did. You actually did.
Oh, that's...
Shameful.
Hold on a second.
Shameful.
Hold on a second. Now we got to pull this up. And just...
I'm in your phone with 2 B's.
You're in my phone as hypoc. Damn it.
There you go, folks. There you go. And he has turned the color of a tomato.
Tomato.
Here in front of me.
Well, how am I in your phone?
Zack Sass.
Yeah, but how do you spell my first name?
Z-A-C-K.
He said Zed. But yeah, no, you got it right.
Z-A-C-K.
I forget that you say Zed.
Zed.
This is the longest outro ever. All right. Yeah. That's it. You know, thanks for coming by. Whatever platform you're using to listen to this, whether it's Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, I think that's it. Make sure you're following or you're commenting or whatever it ends up being on that platform. And I will see you in the next one. Adios.